Okay, so welcome back to my next interview. So I have with me today Jan Christian Duarte. Jan, say hi to the viewers for us.
Ni hao, konnichiwa, hello.
Okay, we got this. I would say so. Basically, Jan is basically one of my closest, my close friends. We basically play racing sim games together. And basically, I
Mhm.
have him here in this interview bit to help to actually answer some questions from our fellow viewers who are asking me tons of questions on how to get started in sim racing, especially here in the Philippines, given this COVID-19 pandemic. So, without further ado, let's get to the questions. So, let's start out with who is Jan Duarte?
A very interesting question. Who is
Yeah.
John Duarte? Who am I? Of course, I'm John, and I'm from the Philippines, and then I work as an IT technician way back abroad long ago, and now I'm here in Manila trying to get by at least. Of course, with the usual same work,
Nice.
and at the
Wow.
same time, I do love video games a lot, mostly in the arcade.
All right. Right. Wow. So to the viewers out there, we got here a one high valued interviewee with us because behind all the games, there's always tech involved, right? So basically, to
Mm-hmm.
those who have questions out there, we have come to the right guy, and send all the questions, and don't worry, we'll get them to answer. All right. And to add up to that is this. So Jan, what got you into the
Mm-hmm.
world of sim racing?
Well, it started with the video arcade centers. When it comes to, for example, when I was like roaming around, I thought like, okay, there is a game I want to play because you get bored with the Nintendo Entertainment System or the Famicom. There's always that particular itch that you want to touch.
Yes.
And when I entered the arcade for the first time, all I see was people with cars, the rides,
Yes.
which is like the trains.
Hmm.
And I did rode one of those, but it did not give me that thrill I'm looking for until I met this arcade game called Outrunners. It was a
Yes.
very this arcade game specifically was the only game that gave me the thrill because we're in the Philippines or in Manila in particular, can you find an arcade that will give like 16 cabinets, which it will be equivalent to 16 players battling against each other in one game, in one racing game that has a lot of gimmicks, lots of crazy stuff, crazy races going on. It's like wacky racers, except that you're just sitting there on a booth with the racing wheel and pedals, and all you have to do is just insert coin at the same time with all the other players, so that they can get in all at the same time. That's also one of the very first multiplayer games I've ever played in an arcade, and that is also one of the best games I've ever played. And from then on, I started progressing to many games. One is like VR Racing by Sega, which is an F1 racing game. One of the most eye candy games that I've ever seen. It's all 3D. You never see it anywhere in the world except Sega makes these games. Of course we also have the one of a kind sim racing called the Ferrari F355 Challenge, which involves a
Yes.
gearbox and clutch and three screens. And this is also one of the games that you find rare these days. Although I wasn't able to play it because I don't know much about how to control a car at the time. We were very young. I was a kid. So the
Yeah.
only thing I went for another game was Lucky and Wild, which is basically you drive the car at the same time you hold these light guns that are stuck on the dashboard of that video game cabinet, and it takes two players to play it. Otherwise, you can get three kids to play. One should be the driver, one should handle player one gun, and the other can handle player two gun. And from there, I progressed until I couldn't anymore get into the arcades. I started going on PC and console. That's where I started meeting Need for Speed Underground. And from there,
Yes,
it reached
classic.
until what I am doing here today.
Nice. So basically,
Mhm.
for the viewers out there, even the classics do make a person appreciate the more updated games nowadays. Am I right, Jan?
Yes, of
Yes.
course. Because
Especially,
what you get today,
yeah,
you don't you won't experience the same thing as what the older people did in the past.
it's definitely true. And just to add to that is that when you were able to experience the cabinets of 16, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
You have like 16 of those. Imagine those now all visual, and you don't have to be beside each other. You can all be online and still feel the same thing. But at least if you've experienced that in the past, you know it in your head that you can always do that again. Because basically,
Yes.
you can always replay that memory, and basically the mindset is that you get to do it again, and basically you can
Mm-hmm.
get more people into it. So basically, it's one of the whole values that we're trying to present in this video. And thank you for that, Jan. I mean, wow, it's a whole string of experiences all leading up to this day. Am I right?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Although these days there's always limits now. Unlike before, it was a carnival,
Yeah,
a very big carnival of cars with different people, different skill sets, and different experiences. Unlike today, racing sim is really different.
yes,
It differs whether you're an arcade player or just a casual player or a pro player.
definitely. Also, it
Although,
depends on what background you came from, right? Yeah.
yes,
Nice, nice. Wow. And it came to realize is that since you mentioned arcade gaming and the transition into a console setup, would you say that it's actually a big jump, or it's just very similar to each other? Because I have a
they're
feeling
very
they're not the same, right?
they're very similar
Yes.
because one, you can still play. The only difference is that you don't get to play with other people. You get to play with AI. Sometimes, if the
Nice.
game happens to be having two players, of course, you can play side by side in a split screen mode, or if it's online, then you can play it on over the internet.
Wow. I did not know that was possible. But
Well,
yeah.
times change, man, because that's how most arcade racing games are these days. Even one very particular game called Outrun 2006, which is one of my
Classic.
favorite games. It's not just because it's a drift ghetto game.
Mhm.
It's also one of the games that still has the multiplayer option still alive today. Although you have to do it with a different alternative, like you have to do it with some third-party networking tools. Before it used to be online, and many people competed on it, whether it's on PC or PlayStation 2 or Xbox, the original Xbox, or during in 2008 it was the PS3 via PlayStation Network, which JK has that game, although it's no longer online because the services got cut by 2010.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow. And goes a long way. Wow. So
Yep.
also just to add to that, Jan, what racing sim did you start out with? Now that now you shared your background. Now, what was that game or setup that you started out with?
Hmm. I did mention it was arcade, although it
Yes.
was Outrunners, but before Outrunners,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually the tit- titles HQ Chase, which is
HQ
basically
Chase.
a racing it's basically a car game where you
Mm-hmm.
chase criminals,
Oh, nice.
and that little box alone where it has lights that look like sirens
Mm-hmm.
up like on the left and right. The best experience is that you get to experience that is also what you call the turbo at that time. Like when you press the turbo button, it will give you super speed and you to help you knock out the enemy. And you have to actually chase the enemy within 3 minutes. Otherwise, you lose all those minutes. And it took me like about 10 tries just to make sure I capture the first enemy. The next is also the second one, and until it progresses, it becomes very, very difficult. And this game is really old, but it's also one of the fun games I've experienced with, despite the classic 80s nostalgia at the same time with the mix of Miami Vice.
Oh, just from the story alone, this makes me wanna experience it all over again because it's truly a
Mhm.
classic, and
It's a classic, and of
and it's
course, it's
nostalgic,
also
isn't it?
available.
Yeah.
There's also a part two version of it, which was made like I think around 11 years ago, but it wasn't as good as the classic.
Mm.
The part two, which I also have a copy somewhere in the hard drives, an arcade dump actually.
Nice.
The experience is very, very different, and it feels like it was just, we just have to sell this game according to the developers. Unlike the classic, you still get to experience every inch of it
Mm. Nice. So with
instead
that,
of.
Jan, what
Mhm.
from the classic game that you started out with, what is the present game that you actually invest your time in now?
There are three. There's actually four, I think, if
Hmm.
I'm correct. Otherwise, five would be the total. So the very first game would be Initial D8, which I haven't
Nice.
finished yet.
That's all right.
It's a Then the second one would be Initial D0, which is also I was just starting to get on into it until it did not run properly again, so I have to fix something there. Number three would be Need for Speed Heat, which is also
Ooh.
another good game, but I don't say it's really that good. I can only say it feels arcadey, not too realistic like Forza, but still it's one of the games where I'm also disappointed with because of the lack of cars. Those
Ah,
Toyotas.
yeah. Purely
So I
all
said,
JDM, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, not exactly JDM. It's because we all love that sort of initial D feel. And
Yeah.
only Need for Speed 2015 was the only last game, the only online only game of the Need for Speed series that have the Toyota cars. That's the only last game. And number four would be Outrun 2006 because I want to make sure I'm still not rusty in the time and make sure
Yeah.
I can beat the long runs. Long runs meaning like I want to make sure I get through all those 12 destinations or all of those destinations as said on the map. Otherwise, no point. And that's quite a lot. Imagine like you have to do it within 10 minutes to finish all those courses.
Wow.
Mhm. Then the number five game would be Wangang Midnight. I haven't finished it because there were a lot of things to fix. Like there's sometimes it crashes, sometimes it just works as normal. Probably it's because either the files are missing or some text need to be patched. That I have to fix later on.
I see. Wow.
hmm
Wow. Even the last game you said, Wang and Midnight. Wow. I'm pretty sure that everyone who goes to the arcade or watches La Llave Motorsports Project Anbu,
hmm
it's a pretty enjoying game,
Yeah.
and the thing that makes people go back to it is actually the Bana passport card. Yeah.
Yes, I actually lost my very first Banapass card, which contains the car that has from Wangang Midnight 4
Oh man,
in
that's
2015. And that was also, it also had my profile data, which is from the one in Japan.
ooh.
Yeah, and also the profile data for the very first Tekken 7
Yeah.
series before it became the official game in the arcades.
Oh, nice. Basically, you got some insider data as well, huh? In a way.
Yeah, but that data is already outdated since, games get upgraded this very fast and we don't know when they will actually phase out. because technology grows so quickly and we don't know what's going to happen. Let's say next year PS5 might come,
Yeah.
or maybe in 10 years again there'll be an PS6 or Plush Speed 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, because the text really changed pretty fast, and I really don't think that PS4 is going to be outdated in the next 3 years, right? It's still going to be there.
It won't be, but the PS3 for sure will have their PSN services cut by 2022.
Oh,
If my
okay.
prediction is right, because I expect it to expire this year because I saw the expiry date on my Tekken Tag Tournament 2 online pass to expire this month and this year as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's still online. It just means that there are people playing, but the servers to most of the games are already closed down because they're so expensive to maintain. And second, it's like there's no point to maintain this server when there's a new one, a new game that will have the better choices, right? Like
Yeah.
for example, Gran Turismo 6 is one of them. I mean, it's still a popular game, but when Gran Turismo Sport came out, people were like, so sad. So let's get
Yeah.
a PS4 and get Gran Turismo Sport.
It's basically what I'm going to be doing, actually, because given this pandemic, I hear that Watson Racing School is actually holding an event for frontliners that each person who gets to participate gets to donate and
Ooh.
basically gives one meal to the frontliners. So basically, for example, I think the entry is just 100 pesos minimum, and if
Mm-hmm.
you donate that and Family Mart will double it, and it'll provide a meal to a frontliner all the way down in the south. Shout out to those who are frontliners. You're really doing a big honor and basically a big job for the country and especially for the world actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very true.
yeah. So more power to you guys, and hopefully we're all looking at many platforms to actually raise funds and actually help. That's why one of the reasons why I'm doing this series of interviews is just to raise awareness, and hopefully one day we can uh, we can also do it. We can also do our
Yeah.
part. Yeah,
I would like to see the Outrunners competition again one day.
yeah. Maybe because I have a
except
feeling.
we
I
will
Yeah.
except we will do it with Outrun 2006 because it's the easiest to set up.
Oh
Just need
yeah.
eight. You just need about 8 computers or
Hmm.
four, then you can all compete at the same
Wow.
time.
Just think about that. It's an old game, but actually, if you gain an audience, if you gain leads to actually get into those events, wow! Imagine the engagements, the time, and then the
Hmm?
money you can raise from that. Wow! And
Yeah.
it's all going for a good cause. And also, just to add to that, John, now we're on the subject of actually giving options for sim racing. How would you recommend someone who has no idea at all at sim racing? How would you recommend him or her to get started in sim racing?
Hmm.
I want to
For
hear your
one,
thoughts.
how I got in was straightforward. But if it has to be another person, it has to be introduced in a way like it has to start with one question. Would you like to try this? It's like saying,
Ah,
would you like to try this food? This
yeah.
food is so tasty. It
Mm-hmm.
makes that other person drool. So
Mm-hmm.
what if I apply the same concept to sim racing? It had to be somewhere cheap. Of course, the only cheapest alternative I can imagine is not at home, but outside in the arcade. Because we got Wangan Midnight, we got Battle Gear 2, we got what else? Initial D6
Yeah.
until 8. And also that silly Fast and Furious game,
Yeah.
which was buttons are always broken all the time, but the experience feels like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you introduce those games to the person, then it will like then they will start asking questions like, how do you control this? How do you select the car? Then I have to tell them, you just use this wheel to select the car and use the pedal to confirm or any of these buttons, then start racing. It doesn't matter if the person wins or lose. What matters is that if he likes the game, okay. If not, then there's another racing game. Just try. Keep trying until they find their game. Like my sister, she already played Wangan Midnight 3DX.
Um,
And then she played Wangang Midnight 5DX also very recently. And she also has the car that she likes, which is a Subaru WRX STI, the bug eye
yeah.
one, because she said it's cute. She still has the Wangang Midnight 3DX card, which also consists of the same car, a
Nice.
Subaru bug WRX STI bug eye as well in the color blue. But
Truly
I hope it
a
won't be.
Subi fan all the way, huh?
Well, for my sister, she just finds it looking cute because the other cars looks a little bit questionable to her. For me, it's more
Yeah.
like I just like the all-wheel drive system because it's more convenient and not because of the looks, it's because of the performance.
Yes, definitely.
I prefer to drive a car in 300 horsepower if I want to go for the motorsport in stock mode all the way. But if it's like for pure racing, okay, that's another story.
Yes. Also, it'll depend on what setting of the racetrack will be, whether it be autocross or rallycross or circuit.
Yes, exactly. Because, like Wangang Midnight, I don't
Mhm.
think it's a circuit game. I
No.
call it mostly a drag game because
Yes.
they're more focused on speed.
Yeah.
And that's what I experienced with many, many people who like say, "Oh, can I be able to race in this game?" I said, "Yeah, you just need to buy this Bana Pass." There are a few people I've been like influencing to play the game when these kids when they hit at the mall and they start watching me and they're like, can I? And I ask them, do you want to play? And if they say yes, I'll just let them have my spot. I don't care if my profile will be corrupted or something by them.
Mm.
hmm
Oh,
Because I
okay.
want them to experience what it's like on the fully upgraded side. Then after that, they have to start, then they will ask, uh, and then go. Sorry, they will ask me where do I buy this Bana Pass card. I told them you just have to buy it at the sales counter. It's around this price, and voila. If they don't have it, you just come back and try again, like next week. Yeah, that's how it
Nice.
works for me.
Nice. Actually, wow. That was actually a big, massive value. So to the viewers watching, is that this guy basically has the end in mind, basically to for anyone who wants to experience an arcade setup, because it's very similar to a setup that you have at home. But
hmm
for Jan, on the other hand, he can make a person who has never experienced it before experience it when you already have it. So
hmm
now, if I were that person, I will do whatever it takes, whatever it's in my power to actually experience that journey on getting to where he is. So wow, you just sparked a boomerang from all those days. Maybe if that guy were your friend, if you guys can connect one day, and well, isn't that gonna be amazing? From that
Yeah,
that
it's
that
gonna be
story going.
amazing. I
Yeah.
think this kid is still hanging out at Mall of Asia at Quantum, looking for me sometimes. But hey, I only go there if I have free time. That was before the pandemic happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
hmm
That's
There are
correct.
many games that I have introduced to kids before, such as dance games in particular, or maybe puzzle games. Like
Ooh.
there used to be puzzle games in where I used to be, but now that arcade is already gone, long gone.
Oh, I see.
All the games right now are full of those ticket redemption games, which I hate the most. Not because it's like a money earning machine. It's more like it's not fun. You're just spending money. You don't want to learn skills. Like we
Actually,
have
yeah.
a fight, like we have a fighting community who are very focused on Street Fighter and Tekken,
Hmm.
and we got a racing community who's focused on Wangang Midnight and trying to battle each other out.
Yeah.
like the best, like having the best time trial and so on. And of course, the dance games and the rhythm music games community. We also have those people who wanted to say this is the best song, that is the best song. And all those competitions that doesn't seem to make sense. They all are there in the arcade. And if you want to join the fight, just join.
Yeah. Also, from the transition nowadays, actually, since you mentioned the ticket printing ones, from what I noticed is that they're all game of chances now, right? There's
Yeah.
not much games anymore that really need preparation or skill or just like what you
hmm
mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah. But
actually,
if
yeah,
I were to open an arcade with a friend, and he just asked me to build this old machine games up, like if they don't anymore sell the vintage games anymore, what do? You build one from scratch. I can do that. I can try to
actually,
look for blueprints and see how to make the old racing games work again.
yeah,
Like Outrunners is one of them. It's still a very good classic, but if you were to put it into today's standards, everybody will hate the graphics, but they'll still enjoy the
nostalgia,
experience because
nostalgia at its best.
it's not just nostalgia. What you're doing is you're trying to put 16 people to fight for their death.
Yeah, and also one of the games that actually from an arcade that actually in my opinion I could qualify as a sim racing game is actually Battle Gear 4 Tune.
Yes,
Because
I agree. It's
one,
the
it's
only
yeah,
game that is really, really complicated to play for somebody who wants to try. Not
yeah,
unless you go for the easy mode of it. You won't be using the shifter or the clutch. But then again, the experience of Battle Gear Fortune, which I tried in Japan before, is way beyond the Ferrari F355 challenge arcade game. It's not just three monitors in front of you. It's just one with the roll cage around. The
hmm,
speakers are hanging as well. And to give you that sort of experience and feel, even the force feedback feels like you're handling a Jeep, a
yeah,
Willys Jeep, or a hand-built Willys Jeep, or so they call the owner type Jeep. It feels like one, and it's how heavy it is. It doesn't have that power steering feel that you feel on Wangang Midnight or Initial D. It's really that heavy. So one, if you don't have that sort of strength, good luck.
yeah.
I even tried to play it on
Sorry, I think we had some technical difficulties for the internet, but it's okay. We'll get right back at it. So just a little segue is that you know sim racing games can be learned easily, and it just depends on the exposure, and it's an all a matter of actually wanting to do it over and over again, and actually one day competing against everybody else, because we all both know that battling out with the AI is actually a challenge by itself. But if you actually know the patterns, it's actually pretty new. Okay, just a little bit. We'll get him right back in the call, so not to worry. We'll just wait for a while. So also, I wanted to get this opportunity to promote my page. It's Dominado E Motorsports Rally. So to those viewers who actually want to have more content and to actually collab one day in the future, or to even stay tuned for more interviews and for more content, for more amazing ideas, and for more inputs on sim racing, you do give that a like and follow, and I guarantee you massive content, massive value is going to be made. And I'm pretty amazed, and I do I like doing what I do. So if you are that person who wants to voice out your inputs on sim racing, just hit that message button, and then let's get to talking, and then let's let's get it set up, because you know this given this pandemic, man, it's pretty it gets pretty boring, especially if we call this, if you're not doing much at home, and if you're used to being outside, we gotta transition from being offline to online. So one nice thing about that is that to relate present events to the viewers is that all racing events, all social gatherings are all canceled. They're all postponed. They're all moved. So what everybody has done is that they all went online and made leagues of their own and still battle it out. Even given if their career is on the line for fellow racing or turned racing enthusiasts. So it's okay. So, but by then, there's always a solution when it comes to racing leagues. So by all means, it's also okay. So Jan, I
So,
think you're back.
yeah, I'm back. Internet got disconnected. Yeah, I did warn you earlier.
It's okay. It's okay. I used the
Uh,
it's still recording by the way, and I just used the
I just edited.
opportunity while you were cut. I just used the opportunity to promote my page and to promote the cause. So
No
it's all right.
problem.
Not
It's
much time.
better. Better
Nice.
than nothing.
Yep.
Okay, where were we?
So where were we? Okay. So we can actually we can actually get the next question. Is that are
Mhm.
you leaning more into actual racing or esports?
Tough question.
Yeah.
Well,
All
let's
right.
just say for now, I'm leaning into esports because
Esports.
one, it's like it's the cheapest way to get into racing.
Yes, definitely.
Unlike some people, well, there are two different views we can see here. For the person who wants to be cheap, safe, and doesn't break any bones, but breaks the bank instead, well, you can go for sim racing because esports is already growing. It has started the influx has went up from 2014 until today, and right now their esports is also growing rapidly because of the pandemic. Thank you, COVID. No, not just kidding. I don't like it. It doesn't
Yeah.
make people go out of the house and smell burning rubber.
Yeah.
But unlike into actual racing, it's like I need a car. I need to also have a big bank book. Like if I say big bank book, meaning like more money to earn,
Hmm.
because racing in actual is not very cheap. I've
Yeah.
learned that from many experienced racers. Like for example, when I not example, but from when I attended the very first Philippine Autocross and did
Mm.
a very first coverage before, I think that was in 2018 with Hilde, which is one of our friends.
Hmm.
Mm, I did learn that many people did not have the best car. They don't have like a Ferrari or a GTR. What they have was like a lemon or basically a worn out car like those Toyota Corolla AE92, which are front wheel drive, but they still pack a punch, or those Honda Civic EG models. They're very old, but they pack a punch as well if you tune it right. So these cars but of course, these may be cheap cars that we see for 30 to 50 or 80,000 pesos. We have to also consider the parts that we have to invest in, like turbos or tires or rims or brakes or maintenance consumables like oil, um, coolant, and everything else. So yeah, so that's why I lean down to esports most of the time because that's where my money will be most of the time because you're safe, you're just at home, you're just also racing online. However, if you cannot experience multiplayer mode on the internet, then where do you go? Looks like I have to lean to the to the actual racing because
True.
you get to challenge yourself. But then again, for other people, it will just be either what anything goes.
True. True. And also, it's not just a mere platform. It's also an alternative, and also it's also how some other people got their big break, basically, right?
Yeah,
Especially
that's true.
if they made it into an esports team or they get to represent the country. So also shout out to those drivers who are participating in the ERGP for Southeast Asia, for the ones
Mm-hmm.
battling through race room and Sir Alex Yung. And more power to you guys and go Team Philippines, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be on the radar because other Asian
Yep.
countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, they're always on the boards because they're
Mm-hmm.
supported and the training is massive and it's intense. So hopefully Philippines gets to have that taste as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's also one of the reasons why I'm promoting awareness. So hopefully we get to be a lot because when there's a huge community that is backing up everybody else, it's very motivating. You know, it gets to
Yep.
captivate people to actually do what they do. So it's pretty amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
also, what's your opinion on this, Jan? Do you believe that racing simulators are the future of the racing world?
Hmm. It is.
It is.
Because racing simulator is not limited to cars alone, if you think about it. Because even RC vehicles like drones or boats or off-road rally vehicles that are on remote control, you can even control them with VR these days.
Yeah, that's that's
Hmm.
that's also true.
Like, like I can give you one good example. The example is in Dubai. They have their drone racing almost every season.
Hmm?
Or if they want to join the season, they have to also make sure they're really equipped. Some use VR, some use just the screen of the computer just to navigate through all of those rings that are in the map. So basically, racing simulation is not limited to software. It's also you can also expand it to hardware, like RC cars, for example. Even me, I still imagine today that what if we can revive that old 90s old 90s thing that was a thing in the US where they put a camera inside the RC cars and there are four cabinets and TVs that are connecting and each of them are connected to each of these cars that the player chooses because there's like a 4x4 truck, there's a hatchback, there is a normal sedan that is four-door and there's a two-door coupe, and that's where the players have to choose which one they think is fast or which one they're more comfortable with. It's just like video games, although it's not like RC. Video games have a different physics. When it comes to RC, that's also another different physics. You're not just counting on how fast the car is. You're also counting on how safe can you make sure you're on track. Same goes with drone racing. You have to make sure you don't hit anybody. And you have to also make sure you're very quick with the eyes. Otherwise, you might crash or you might miss a turn or you might lose the entire race for the season.
Yeah. Wow. So to the viewers out there, it's not all just limited to just a sit-at-home sim racing. It's also based on virtual reality things now. Because if I remember correctly, two notable games that come in mind is Gran Turismo Sport. If
Hmm.
I'm right in assuming, Jan, there is a VR option for the game now.
Yes, there is a VR option because people wanted like a three monitor, like in Gran Turismo 6, which takes no, not six, three PS3s to create the three monitor mode.
Wow.
Yeah, you need three PS3s, three of the same game, same DLCs and stuff, and three monitors. And of course, three PSN accounts if you want to have the DLCs in the same PS3. Imagine that.
Wow.
That's a lot of spending money. But hey, what can you do? It's good. So they're thinking the PS4 version might be the same for GT Sport. No, just buy a VR headset, you're done.
Mm,
But the best part is with VR headset, you can do what you can do in an actual car, like see the rearview mirror or the side mirrors and everything else. You
And
don't need to use
actually,
the
you have this innate feel that you're actually in a race car. right?
Yes.
Like you can see
Yes,
what's
that's one.
inside, or even the track, or the
Yeah.
passenger window, right?
Yeah. But just don't expect just for the people who will try it for the first time, don't think
Hmm.
that you're in a real car. Otherwise, you might fall out of your seat.
Ah,
It happened to me one. It happened to me one time at TSGS. I thought I was in a real car, like ah! And there goes the watcher saying, "Sir, sir, sir, are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh fuck, I embarrassed myself."
oh
No,
no.
no, that is VR. That is actually VR, and that is also one of those magics where you kind of feel like, okay, you thought you're in a real car.
Oh, I
That's
see.
really that's really a very weird experience, but hey, can't do anything about it. It's part of the new tech.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Never saw it that way. But yeah, for those of the viewers out there, uh, it's not that we're not encouraging VR, is that we're also encouraging it. But if you're planning to start out, is that start out simple for now. Get to know
Mhm.
what setup and what game that resonates with you the most. And if money weren't an issue, for example, or if the option presents itself, go for it. Go for VR. But provided it gives you a full innate experience, and wow, it feels like you're actually there, but you also have to remember that you're not in there, because
Mhm.
sometimes what you see and what you feel don't match when you're on a VR. So it takes a matter of getting used to, but given a lot of practices and everything, it's gonna be second nature for you. And
Yeah.
also to top that off, what's your biggest takeaway from your experiences in sim racing? Like if I were to ask you or to answer a question or to address a question from the viewers, is that what value do we get out of sim racing?
Hmm. One is like learning how a car works,
Okay.
because when you see kids play, let's say Wangang Midnight, for example,
Hmm.
they just think you just step on the pedal and try to compete. In my case, it was all sim racing was one of the very first hands-on for me to drive a car, and that's where I learned how a car works, how reverse works, how oversteering works or understeering, how brakes work. It's almost the same as what you do in a real car. Although in a real car, it's really real time. And what I learned from sim racing is that when you drive a car, it's not you don't get to do the same thing as you do in a real car, like bumping other cars. There's
Oh no.
also yeah, there are also rules you have to apply. And in sim racing, you are very safe from those rules. But if you apply it to real life, you're not really safe. That's why I take all the experience from sim racing to actual driving, because in actual driving, there's still a lot of things to learn. What you're learning in sim racing is just one half of it. And that's the biggest advantage you can bring with you as you grow up. But if you don't, then you're better off hearing your driver instructors screaming at you saying, "No, no, 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 that's not it. That's not it. You have to do this. You have to do that. No, that's not how you push the clutch, my friend. No, that's not how you reverse. No, that's not how you turn a car. You don't do like one turn. You have to do all the way." So
Yeah.
those so with for the because it also happened to me one time, like my very first driving lesson with an instructor.
Hmm.
Just to drive the car for the first time, my instructor was asking me, "Where did you really drive before?" That very question only. And I'm like, "No, I
Oh.
didn't play." And he said, "Where did you learn to drive?" I said, "Video games in the arcade." I said, "Ah, then I'll teach you the other half instead of the story, how to use the gearbox." Because most of the time when you're driving in the arcade or playing in the arcade, those driving games, you don't get to meet a gearbox that has gear one, gear two, the manual shifter. You get only the either you go low or you go high on the speed.
The sequential type.
Well, I don't say sequential type. I call it like the two step, either low step or high step. It's
Ah,
like
yeah.
if you have to go up, you have to use low step, right?
Yep.
Which is basically gear one or gear two. And if you want to go fast, you have to use high step, and that's how you go fast. But it has to be on timing. That's also one of the factors I learned playing Chase HQ, that old game. That is the only game I tried to do manual. I thought it was like, oh, I have to press this to go fast. No, it doesn't work like that. Took me a while to learn that. But hey, that's how I brought experience to actual driving. Although the other half of the actual experience is like using turn signals, when to reverse, how to park. Those are the other half that I have to learn with the instructor. But the rest of the driving skill, like how to turn, when to brake, or when to accelerate, you learn those on the driving simulators or racing simulators or the arcade games that requires you to do that. Like Initial D is one example I recommend to people to play with because Initial D 6 to 8, you learn how the wheel works and when to brake, especially when you want to enter a corner and attack and all the stuff. And that's why many Japanese people love Initial D also, apart from Battle Gear 4, because Initial D is where they start and Battle Gear 4 June is where they do most of their technical um,
Yeah.
courses or
And if I
racing
remember correctly,
experiences.
what makes Battle Gear for Tune really famous among the market, not just the Japanese, there are many cars there that are in other games as well. Like
Yes, exactly.
I think the A86 is also there.
Yeah, it is there
Yeah, and
also. The Subaru is there,
Subaru is
and most of
there.
it's almost the all favorites of the people are there, including the famed EK Honda, EG Honda. Those two cars in particular are very popular in the Philippines. Yeah, they're also there.
Yeah.
And the R32, R34, those are one of the famous Nissan cars that Japanese people go for than the A86. The A86 is just only an icon, but for if you want actual driving experience of those cars, Battle Gear for Tune has them all. Like try to play a Subaru Impreza STI and also play the Nissan Skyline R34 GTR. The driving experience is way different. It's not always the same. It's just like playing Gran Turismo 6. All cars are different in terms of how long or short they are in terms of wheelbase. So
Mm.
yeah, all those. So yeah, basically they take those. So whoever is having that car in real life, they also take it back to the simulator too, and see if they can also do the same. That's why if you see many, let's say, many foreigners who work there and have a sports car like an R34 or a Mazda Miata MX-5 or a drift car of any brand, make, and model, they also try to apply it in Battle Gear Fortune as well to see if they are like same experience or something's different. Because if something's different, then there's something wrong with either how they feel or the car they're driving.
Mm. Wow. So, wow, just to top that off to the viewers watching is that, wow, the massive value in the things you can get out of sim racing is not just for a career online, it can actually be used to help enhance some life skills, isn't it, Jan? Like
Yeah,
like
but
for
I
me,
also
yeah.
I also recommend if you want to like learn it on the video game, just don't forget the simplest rules you can learn also from your driver instructor. Well, don't make the because most of the traffic rules are different from a game.
Yes, definitely.
I learned mine the hard way.
Yeah.
But
It's all part of the journey as well, and
mhm,
it's also part of the fun as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
pretty
part of
sure
the
of that.
fun,
So
but it's also
also
safe.
to top it off, what is your racing discipline of choice, Jan? Given that you preferred, or not really prefer, you started out in arcade games. So what racing
Hmm.
discipline does that fall under?
circuit most of the time
Circuit racing.
because you have to learn how to brake most of the time. Because before I just only I only step on the accelerator and like, oh, okay, I'll just turn this way. And
Mhm.
if I don't learn how to brake, okay, I'm dead. So that is my racing discipline of choice because it still applies to real life as well. Like when you have to learn, you have to know when to brake, especially if you have to enter, let's say, the what you call this, the exits to a certain place. Let's say if you're on S-Lex, what do? You have to slow down, then turn signal to the person on the right behind you, so he'll know that you're just turning inside just to enter the exit way, just to go to, let's say, Tagaytay, for example. Although not everybody still gets it
Yeah,
here, which is
I'd
kind of
say
sad.
it's just mastery or presence of mind, I would say, but I'm not really fully sure. And also, do you have a fan page or a channel wherein the viewers can connect with you in case they have any questions or they want to collaborate with
Oh,
you one day? So
oh,
yeah.
of course. There's one. One is Channel Gamer, which is spelled differently on the gamer. It's because, but I can give you the URL instead because it is easier. It is fb.gg/ then TV, then Gemu, which is GEM for mother, then U, then Chaneru, which is CHANERU. So TV Gemu Chaneru, which is basically TV game channel in English. That I just only took the Japanese phonetics out because it was too long if I make it channel in English. So I just shortened by two words. Oh no, not two words, two letters. Sorry.
Nice.
And for Twitch, I also have one on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/ Candy Bazooka. Candy is like CANDY, then Bazooka is like BAZOOKA. It is based on the chewing gum, the bazooka bubble gum.
Yeah, classic.
So
Classic. I like it.
basically Candy Bazooka.
Nice. Nice. So do you also have a YouTube channel by any chance?
Oh yes, I do, but it's not on racing sim. It's mostly on those music videos that
Oh,
I edit and synchronize to future funk tunes. And
nice.
it is Ani Tokyo underscore channel.
Hmm.
You can remove the underscore, just use space. So it's Ani Tokyo, which is Ani from the word anime, then Tokyo, basically Tokyo. So combine them, it will be Ani Tokyo, then channel. You will find all those future funk videos. Maybe you might like to use those music in your car, especially when you like to do night drives.
Oh, yeah.
I sometimes do night drives solo because it's just to cut off some steam. Just only once in a while. I don't want to always do it every night because gas is so expensive.
Yeah, I can greatly relate with that. And truly, a night drive is very therapeutic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you have the right music.
Oh,
So,
yes, definitely.
mhm.
Yeah.
If but but these days you can also apply it with video games as well. Like Wangang Midnight, I sometimes turn off the music in Wangang Midnight and just put on the future functions.
Hmm.
I just use the time attack mode because if I use the story mode, it's stressful.
Can't, can't turn off the
It's so
sounds.
stressful.
Yeah.
No, you can turn off the sounds. You just have to
Oh, is it?
use you have to use the what you call this, the test menu, and turn down the sound from there.
Oh, wow. I didn't see it
Un,
in that
unlike
angle.
un, yeah, because unlike in an actual Wangang Midnight game, you have, like, in the arcade, I mean, you really need to use a profile key, and from the profile you can turn it down from there. Just like in Initial D, you can turn off the music from there via your profile so that it will be universal for everybody. to see what music they like. That's why most people sometimes turn off the sound because they want the sound of the machine or anything else. But to me, I just want to make sure I don't get copyright strike.
Oh yes, definitely.
But
Yeah,
either way, Facebook hasn't strike me yet. So it's like, okay, no problem. I'll just stream as is.
that's good. That's good. And
Mhm.
to the viewers out there, I do encourage you to check out Channel Gamer on Facebook and especially on Twitch. It's Candy Bazooka. Because if you guys are up for content which is either sim racing or shooters,
Mhm.
I highly encourage you to please like and subscribe in this channel because a lot of content out there, and I mostly see my friends and some of the viewers are telling me, what channel or what avenue should I go to see some fresh new content. Here you go. Also, channel gamer usually is online or streams almost every day. Am I right, Jack?
Depending on the time, because
Yeah.
there are times that I don't stream, there are times I do stream, but I also stream with our good friend Joey.
Oh,
hmm Because
nice.
he likes to play shooters like Counter Strike or Overwatch or PUBG Lite. So
Yeah.
we mostly stream PUBG Lite content because of humor,
Ah, yes, yes. I can really
and
relate.
sometimes squad trolling.
Hmm.
So if Joe is not around, I sometimes I want to join a random squad and try to troll them if I can.
Yes. Wow.
Like, yeah. So those are one of the magics why my page got popular is because of PUBG Lite along with Joey, because we do sometimes some crazy talk over the mic.
Nice.
Like 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 there are times that it was intentional. There are times like it was like, okay, we either lose or win, but still fun to play.
Nice.
But
Nice.
if it is like racing, yeah, it's a different take. It depends on the audience.
Definitely. So, to the viewers out there again, just to keep engagements going, you can, if you can't, if, in case you can't find the link to his page, I'll be linking it somewhere on the description link below. And do subscribe to also to Dominado Motorsports channel. And rest assured, pretty much whatever we stream, we share each other's streams. So don't worry if you still cannot find it or you can't get the right spelling. Don't worry about it. There will all be avenues to keep you guys connected. And to top it all off, for Jan, what is your thoughts on racing simulation in a nutshell? Like, what is Jan Duarte's one-liner when it comes to sim racing?
Hmm. Well, I have the perfect word for it.
Go for it.
Unique. Unique.
Unique. I see.
hmm
Care to
Because
give a background on it?
sim racing isn't always about cars. It's about anything that you can race with.
True.
Like there's horse racing, and it's also a unique thing.
True. True.
hmm Because if you have to think like sim racing is always about cars, then that's where everybody is wrong. Because the word racing is not always limited to cars. You can also race for the fastest typer. That's also sim racing.
In a way, yeah.
You're typing so fast that if you type so fast at work, why not you race with somebody who's actually claiming to be the fastest typer?
Yeah. Wow. That gives a whole new perspective actually to people out there who want to break from the norm or to take a break from the mainstream. I urge you to share this video also, because given the inputs and if you want to review the points discussed by Jan or through me, then feel free to rewind this video and I guarantee you massive results are about to be made. So hopefully this interview has served its purpose. So basically our time here on the interview has ended, but your sim racing journey has just barely begun. So this will not be over. This is still just a series of interviews, and I would like to thank Jan for his participation in this interview. Jan, I know your time is very valuable to you, and I'm pretty sure this video will help raise awareness for sim racing in the country and hopefully from around the globe. And to those viewers who are excited to see new content, stay tuned to Dominado eMotorsports Rally. And along with Channel Gemma, we'll be doing a collaboration one day, hopefully in streams. And I
Hmm.
encourage you to check it out and just take massive action. And I guarantee you results are about to be made. So thank you. I will see you again on the next interview. So Jan, thank you again for your time and
Thank you as well.
see you soon.
See ya.